Hey there, everybody. How you doing? It has been a little bit since we've done a Pete Plays episode, but now seems to be the right time because this game right here, Street Fighter 2 for the Super Nintendo, just turned 30 years old here in the US. Came out here in the US on July 15th of 1992, which makes it 30. I that doesn't make me happy that this game is 30 years old because that just reminds me of how bloody old I am. I have a lot of memories of this game, and we're going to certainly talk about those. Plus, Street Fighter 2 Mania, how I remember it back in that time frame. And we're going to play through the game a little bit, obviously, as we roll on with this episode. Do want to make a mention that I am using a brand new camera. I am using a Logitech Brio 4K camera, although I'm not filming in 4K this time around. But I am in 60 frames per second, hopefully, in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. And maybe I'm a little more clear, which may or may not be a good thing. My face has been known to break cameras and mirrors before, so hopefully I'm not scaring anybody too badly. So this is Street Fighter 2, The World Warrior. This game was, at its time, was the exclusive version of Street Fighter 2 for video game consoles. Nintendo really did score a big coup by landing this particular game. The Genesis didn't have it, so having that early win for Nintendo was certainly a big deal. Street Fighter 2 Mania was huge at the time. Every single video game magazine that you saw on store shelves or that would come in the mail would talk about this game, really from the second half of 1991 on. I remember EGM, the Electronic Gaming Monthly, would talk and just rave about this game over and over and over again. GamePro would talk about it. I think Video Games and Computer Entertainment talked about it a little bit. It was a huge deal. So the fact that this was coming home was an equally large deal because now people could play the arcade game at home. And back at this time, being able to play arcade games at home, although there were some compromises, was still a big deal. Arcades were the kings for video games. So if you were able to play an arcade game at home, even with the compromises, it was still pretty awesome. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump right in here. Now, this is the first version of Street Fighter 2. This is not Turbo, so you don't get to play as the bosses. You get 8 characters to choose from. You get Ryu, Honda, Blanca, Guile, Dalsum, Zangief, Chun-Li, and my boy here, gonna pick Ken. This was always my go-to person, was Ken. Always, always, always. This is where I learned to do the quarter circle forward, which is commonly known as the Hadouken. And then the toward quarter circle forward for the Shoryuken or Dragon Punch. And this may be a little bit easy, but this is the first fight, so we'll see what goes on here. So this is where I cut my teeth on this game. I did not really play this in arcades, honestly. I would see it in arcades, but the other complication with this game was that it was so popular that if you went to an arcade, you couldn't get close. You had to put your token down or your quarter down to be able to wait for the opportunity to play, and you rarely played against a computer. You were playing against another person, and someone who was a novice was going to get their butt handed to them if you didn't know what you were doing, which I certainly didn't. So the home version of Street Fighter 2 gave me the ability to practice, to put what I read in magazines to practical use, so that when I went into an arcade, I'd actually have a little bit of an idea of what I was doing. And learning that quarter circle forward motion, as I have going on here, was vital. These quarter circle forward characters are my mains. Like the charge back, where you have to hold your controller, your D-pad back and then go forward for certain moves. I'm terrible at those. I appreciate the more the quarter circle forward or toward quarter circle forward characters like Ken and Ryu and Sagat would wind up being as well when he would be playable for Turbo. Sure you can. Oh, there we go. Now, this being the first version of Street Fighter 2, there are no like tech bonuses. They don't show you hit like combo counters or anything like that. So it is, by comparison standards, very bare bones. But if you remember the fact that this was basically what we were playing in arcades at the time, up until the release of Street Fighter 2 Dash or Street Fighter 2 Turbo in arcades. We were more than happy to have this, despite the fact that there are some compromises in terms of some lesser character animations in the background or some decorations on each stage that were in arcades but not in this particular version. But we were more than happy to accept that kind of compromise, because where this game counts is the gameplay, and it plays very, very well indeed. Now, because I cut my teeth with controllers for this game, I'm used to the D-pad. A lot of people tell you that they have to have a joystick, they have to have a stick in order to play, or they have to have the 6 buttons, the 3 on top and 3 on the bottom, like the Sega Genesis controller. That's never been a hang-up for me, because this is how I got my start. So I've always been accustomed to this layout. Ow. Stars. There we go. So let's get into some memories of this game. I was 20 years old when this game came out. I've talked in the past about what I was doing in the early 90s. I had dropped out of my first round of community college. I had been a music major. And I moved out to Worcester, Mass, which is which was a big step for me, because before moving there, I had been living with family exclusively. I didn't have a job before. I had been focusing on school exclusively because I was like very academic. I was a nerd. I'll just be straight up honest. So when I got the opportunity to move, when some friends said that they could possibly put in a good word for me to work for AT&T, I bid on it. I wanted to move out and to kind of be an adult. And my view of what being an adult was still very immature. It's like, oh, I can do what I want. If I want to be out until all hours in the morning, I can be out till all hours in the morning. If I want to have a girl over to the apartment, I can have a girl over to the apartment. But I wasn't thinking about things like bills, or what happens when your car stops working and you got to get it fixed, or what happens when you're not feeling great and there's like not a family member around to kind of help you get back on your feet. These are all lessons that you kind of take for granted, but I kind of learned the hard way. So I was paying bills, but not a lot of bills. I had a lot of disposable income at that time. The only bills that I really had were rent, which makes sense because I was living with roommates and we all had to pool our money together and pay rent, and car stuff. Now, I had a car given to me, an old car. It was given to me for my 20th birthday in April of 92. And the car was paid for. So all I had to worry about was paying the car insurance, and then, like, if anything happened with the car, if there was any kind of, like, mechanical issue. Which there would be, because I had an Oldsmobile Cutlass, which was a tank, but it was a Cutlass that was notorious for, like, steering pump issues, where I would be leaking power steering fluid everywhere, and there were issues with the catalytic converter and a couple of other things. But car insurance was not like a big, like, that's something you paid every month. So I did. I was generally pretty good with it. And the car insurance company that there was when I was living out that way in Worcester, like, you could just, didn't have to worry about the mail. You could just drop the check off in an envelope in, like, this little drop slot, and it was close enough where I could just do that. So I didn't have to worry about paying it on time. I could just drop it off, like, the night before, and I'd be good. So when July 15th of 1992 rolled around, I was not going to buy Street Fighter 2 on its launch day. I did not have the money. I really wasn't, although I was interested in the hype, I wasn't, like, that interested. I was going to sit and I was going to wait. I was maybe going to rent it from Blockbuster or something and kind of get a feel for it. But I went to a mall in Worcester, Mass, the Worcester Galleria, and we were looking around in KB, and there was one copy of the game left. And the fear of missing out, or FOMO, kicked in. Like, well, shoot. if there's only one copy of the game left, maybe it sold really well. Maybe I won't be able to get it when I do have more money. What am I going to do? And I legit took my car insurance money, and I put some of it towards Street Fighter 2 here. And I bought the last copy that KB had. And I probably overpaid. I think it was like $10 more than MSRP, if I remember right. So I was happy at the time, because, oh yeah, I don't have to wait to play the game. I'm going to go, I know what I'm doing. But then I had to worry about where I was going to get my car insurance from. Not a very smart move. Kids, if you're watching this, don't prioritize games over bills. It's not smart. But yeah, even when I was 20, I made a dumb move. So anyway, I did wind up getting my car insurance paid, by the way. My roommates were part of this group of friends that I had known for years. And their parents always looked out for us. So if we ever were like in a real pinch for money, or if we were in any kind of like trouble, they would never let us sink. They would always kind of bail us out. So I got a quick loan, and then I paid them back with my next paycheck, and everything wound up working out. But I did get talked to, as any parent would. You know, you need to be better with your money. And yeah, I got that. I didn't do that again. Let's just put it that way. Any time I knew that there was a bill due, I did not choose to buy the video game over paying the bill. So that was the first experience that I had with the game. Now, once I got the game, I really enjoyed myself. It took me a little bit to learn the moves, and again, I always stuck with the quarter circle forward characters, so I focused on that particular skill set. So we're on to our bosses now. And this is where the second story is going to come into play here very shortly. You've all probably heard the story about how this is actually Bison in Japan, but because of possible copyright issues, they had to change the name here in the US because they didn't want to be pissing off Mike Tyson, who that's obviously a play on. So he's the first of the 4 bosses. I don't know what difficulty I have this set at. I think it might be a little too easy. It still impresses me that 30 years later I can still pull off most quarter circle forward moves without too many difficulties. Uh-oh. Tyson does hit hard, or Bison does hit hard. There we go. No problem. Alright, 1 boss down. And now the infamous car destruction stage. Whoops. So I just got to hammer on the kick button down here. These bonus stages break things up just a little bit. Well, I didn't always think that they were, like, that important. Perfect. Already almost 600 grand. This is usually where I have my first spate of trouble. Vega is not nice in this very first Street Fighter 2. In Turbo, he's a little more forgiving, but not here. So I will not be surprised if I wind up losing here. I gotta get my Dragon Punch on. Oh! Here he comes again. Ow. I'm in trouble. Gotcha. Wow, I actually won. I did not think I would there. Definitely the most trouble I've had so far. Alright. Hadouken. Is he dizzy? Yeah, I like that. Oh. Darn it. You're done. There we go. All right. Sweet. All right, that's half the bosses in the books. Now we go on to probably my third favorite character in the early Street Fighter 2 games. So it's Ken, Ryu, and then Sagat here. Those are like my three mains. And when we get to Street Fighter Alpha, the first Street Fighter Alpha, oh, that's not good. He landed his combo and I'm done. See ya. If I somehow come back from this, I don't think it's gonna happen. Oh, maybe. Nope, I walked right into the tiger. Ugh. Right into the tiger uppercut. Not smart. That's the first time I lost. Not a surprise. Again, these are meant to be bosses. This is basically 4 bosses in a row. Now it's been a hot minute since I played this, so the fact that I'm doing this okay is kind of a surprise. It's kind of okay. Gotcha. There we go. All right. Leveled it up. Keeping an eye on my CPU meter down there. I'm like, please don't get to 50%. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I'm in trouble. Did I get him? Oh, wow. The fierce kick gets him. That's a heck of a comeback. All right, so here we go. This leads us into our second of the 2 bad experiences with Street Fighter. This guy. M. Bison, this guy right here. The second day that I had Street Fighter 2, so I believe this is going to be a Wednesday at this point. I get to Bison, and I'm like, yeah, I'm finally gonna, I'm gonna beat the game, and this is awesome. Yeah, no. This is my first experience, and you're seeing it now with cheap bosses. Bison kicked my butt time after time after time after time. Now, I was playing this after I got out of work. I was working shifts for AT&T at like 2:30 to 10. So I'm like playing video games like probably like a really not great hour. Now, I am playing in my bedroom, which is a help. It's not really irritating my roommates all that much. I cannot believe that happened. He still beat me. So anyway, he kept beating me time after time after time, just like he did here. Now remember, I only lost once to anybody, and that was Sagat before this guy. So yeah, we're gonna continue, and yeah, we're gonna stay with Ken. So after about a half an hour of getting housed by Bison, and there were some matches where I made it interesting, but my frustration level was starting to build. By this time, it's now like probably 1 o'clock in the morning. Ooh, is he dizzy? Wow, I actually perfect Bison. That's something I've never done. Okay. That 80 grand? Yeah, wow. So I'd finally had enough. And I took my controller and I snapped it legit in half. Like in 2, right down the middle. It was gamer rage before gamer rage was really like a thing. Now look at this. He's gonna house me again. That's I can laugh at it now, but back then I was not laughing. So I had broken my controller. That wasn't smart. A, it was like 1 in the morning, and B, like I had spent the last of my money on this game. And that is BS right there. So it was that point that I realized that I can't snap controllers. Like, you can't do that. Controllers are expensive to replace. So I'd never done it again. Now, when I have my fits of gamer rage, and I do just like anyone else does, yeah, I must be playing on too easy. That's too easy difficulty level, and he still managed to cause me problems. We'll bump up the difficulty, though. And we'll play as someone else. There we go. So that is one playthrough. But yeah, I never made that mistake of breaking a controller in half again. Usually what I do when I get angry is I will yell. And I already have a voice that carries, so I'll yell pretty loud. Sometimes I'll punch myself in the leg. Or, you know, I'll get up and I'll walk around. I'll like storm around the house. Let's go ahead and raise the difficulty level. Dare I try 4? Yeah, why not? But I never broke a controller again. Controllers break on their own anyway, with repeated use. So go with Ryu this time. Ryu does play a little bit different in terms of some of the moves not connecting twice. So you gotta play a little bit different. Now, at the last difficulty level I played at, I really had very little issue until bosses, so we'll see how this goes. So far, no, yeah, I'm not going to get it perfect, and I shouldn't expect to. Hey, there we go. So those are my first 2 early experiences with Street Fighter 2. Not paying my bill on time to make sure I bought the game, and then breaking a controller in half. So the game cost me quite a bit of money. But that was the beginning. And most of the memories from there have been really positive. This game gave me the confidence to try playing in arcades, and I certainly was no Evo player or anything like that, or whatever the Evo equivalent was back at that time. But I could hold my own. You know, it wasn't going to be like 2 perfects in a row or anything. I usually could win at least 1 round. And it was because I practiced with this game. That's not smart. There we go. So this is the first. I think it was 93 that Street Fighter 2 Turbo came out. I think that was in August of 93. I'd have to check my dates. That I did have the money set aside to buy that, and I also bought Konami NFL Football the same day. So I spent legit like $160, and that was 1993 money. I shudder to think about what that would be worth in today's cash. Street Fighter 2 Turbo is great. That gave me a chance to learn and play as Sagat. Konami NFL Football was crap. Still is crap. When I had to play that again for review for Pat Contry's book, that brought back a ton of memories that were not pleasant. Because the game was bad to begin with, and let's just say that it has not held up well. So that was not a fun recollection. But Street Fighter 2 Turbo was a lot of fun. Super Street Fighter, when that came out for the Super Nintendo, was okay. I was not really enamored with it. And honestly, the Super Street Fighter 2 duology, because it was Super Street Fighter 2 and then Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, even though that's where Akuma came in for the first time, I've never really been a big fan of that whole set. The fact that Super Street Fighter 2, like then the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection, that's the template that the game uses, like that does nothing for me. In fact, Super Street Fighter 2 really kind of tempered my love of the series a little bit. It felt kind of dated, and I didn't like some of the new fighters, and I was just kind of on the fence with Street Fighter. It wasn't until Street Fighter Alpha came out that my opinion really changed, and I caught on with Alpha really fast. Alpha, I played for the first time at a bowling alley in Chicopee, Mass. They had Street Fighter Alpha, they had a teed-off pinball machine, and they also had an NBA Jam machine, so I was all over that. I would always show up to the bowling alley, like, right after work. I would never go back home. I would go there right after work, so I would have time to play arcade games and to get, like, some french fries or mozzarella sticks or whatever before League would start. But I spent a fair amount of quarters on those games. And Street Fighter Alpha, where I had originally read about it in Game Fan magazine, actually playing the game was a pretty big deal. Fell in love with Sagat in that game because his Tiger Uppercut could hit 8 times. And those lengthy combos, even though they didn't do a ton of damage, but just seeing that 8-hit combo meter was, to me, a pretty big deal. It was really cool. So I got pretty good with Sagat. And then, of course, the super moves, like the Tiger Genocide move that would hit like 12 times if you did a level 3. Loved that game. When Street Fighter Alpha 2 came out, again, I didn't play that in arcades. What? There we go. I actually played that at Fantasy Realms, which I've talked about on stream before, on camera before, which is the independent video game store in Springfield, Mass. That I used to go to. They had a Street Fighter Alpha 2 machine there, and I played that a lot. I was still using Sagat and Ken and Ryu. I really wasn't using Akuma yet. My time with Akuma being my main didn't start until Street Fighter Alpha 3. But once that happened, anytime I go back to Alpha 2, or when I'm playing Street Fighter 4, or anywhere where I have the opportunity or the ability to play as Akuma, that's my main guy now. So that's my history with Street Fighter, really. And I did touch on Street Fighter 4. I bought it originally for the Xbox 360 when it had come out. I just recently got a really clean used copy of Ultra Street Fighter 4 for the 360, which I've kind of dabbled in a little bit. And that's kind of fun to go back on. The only Street Fighter game that I didn't mention, or the only games I didn't mention, I hated Street Fighter 3, and that includes Third Strike. I was never a fan of the parry system. Always hated it. And still do. And then Street Fighter 5 for the PS4, which really damaged my love of the series. Street Fighter 5, if you remember when they released it, was bare bones in content. It was really released as an esports game, so if you weren't playing online, it really didn't have a lot of value for you. And even though they released content for it later, it always kind of stayed under my skin. I hated what they did with it. I hated the roadmap of content. I hated the fact that there were a bunch of patches. I hated the fact that the whole user interface seemed to lag. You know, I appreciated the fact that they made nods to the older Street Fighter games, so they had original characters or older characters, and one of the solo modes guided you through all of the early Street Fighter games, and I guess that was pretty neat. But Street Fighter V never really did it for me. So the fact that Street Fighter 6 is coming, I mean, not that I have a modern console to play it on anyway, but even if I did, I'd have to see more in order to be even remotely interested. The fact that I was able to land a complete copy of Street Fighter Alpha for the PlayStation from '95 was great. I got that from DK Oldies, and I think I've shown that on Twitter already, but that was a great get. I love the fact that I actually own that game again. I actually did have it for the PlayStation when it had first come out. Oh, why'd I do that? That's not smart. And again, having an arcade game at home so I could practice was awesome, because I could take what I learned from the home version and apply it when I would go back to the bowling alley and play, where I could complete the game one CC or play through the game all the way on 1 credit more often, because I had the ability to practice at home. Right, Chun-Li has given me some issues here, but that's, again, not surprising. This is like medium difficulty at this point. Always got to finish with a dragon punch if they're dizzy. That's just my thing. I did touch on the bowling alley story. Bowling alleys have long been a place to get your arcade on if you're not in a mall. And it's still that way today, where a lot of bowling alleys, if you go to them, they're going to have some arcade games there. Now, these days, they're going to be more ticket-based, like a redemption-based, because that's what a lot of arcade games are now. But back in the day, bowling alley is where I got introduced to the original Street Fighter. A bowling alley is where I got introduced. Wow, I lost to Chun-Li. That is okay. All right, we'll keep going. Let's see if we can finish this playthrough here. Keep with the same character. I played the Lethal Weapon 3 pinball machine there. I was always hoping that Lethal Weapon 3 would come out for Pinball Arcade or Stern Pinball Arcade or one of those, and it never happened. There was a Horseshoes game called Shoes by Atari that I played only in a bowling alley. I never played it anywhere else. Mortal Kombat 2 I first played at a bowling alley. You're mine. No, you're not. Oh, she crossed me up. I'm done. Maybe not. I'm trying to do, like, air hurricane kicks, and you can't do that in this game. Oh, I thought I had it. Oh! No! No! Yatta! Alright. Keeping it going. Super Street Fighter 2 I played first in a bowling alley arcade. That was in Auburn, Mass, where I played the Super Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat 2. They also had a 6-player X-Men machine in there. I just played through, and wow, I lost again. Gonna have to play it again. I just played through the X-Men arcade game on Xbox 360 like this past week. Oh, that game is cool still. Not better than Turtles, I don't think. Turtles in Time is still like my favorite Konami beat 'em up, but X-Men's pretty gosh darn good. If I was to rank them, Turtles in Time would be 1. The original Turtles game from, what, 89? That would be 2. X-Men would be 3, and then Simpsons would be 4. I played through the Simpsons arcade game last night. That game has not aged well. The music really isn't that great. The game design isn't great. There's not a lot of reason to keep playing. Like, you just finish, but, like, the story is just kind of weird. I don't know. Like, it just... I'm glad I have it still. I'm glad I have access to it still. That's great. But I don't know. Like, the game just doesn't hit the same. But the Turtles games, man, they are great. And, oh, by the way, if you haven't played Shredder's Revenge yet, you got to. Shredder's Revenge from Tribute Games and .emu. Oh, that game is... You want to talk about a game that gets the arcade sensibility right? And really does something that I haven't seen since Konami was at their peak. Oh, am I going to lose again? I'm going to lose again. I'm going to lose again. Ugh. Come on. I wasn't close enough. Is it a tie? Yep. Neither of us had any energy left. Round 3. That's something you don't see too often. Jump, jump. No, you need to jump. I thought she was going to jump. She didn't jump. There, jump. There you go. Haha. That's the one thing, and I get fainted into thinking that she's gonna jump. But this is where it's important to know how to Dragon Punch. Good. Bam. Didn't have the trajectory on my punch. Oh, that's not good. Oh! Come on. Oh, time's over. I win. Hey, it's cheap, but it's effective. I'll take it. Okay. So anyway, Shredder's Revenge, great game. Pick it up if you haven't yet. I know that Digital Eclipse just recently showed more footage from the Cowabunga collection. Boy, I'm excited for that one. I was actually able to get a limited edition or collector's edition pre-ordered. I'm going to lose here, too. This isn't great. That's not great at all. So I'm just waiting for a release date on that. That's going to be a fun package to look forward to. I've actually had a lot of Switch stuff come in of late, and I just haven't spent a lot of time playing it. I think Shredder's Revenge is the one game that I've actually played through and spent more time with, and that was a digital copy. Games like the Capcom Fighting Collection, which I showed off in a recent episode of Unsealed when I opened up Super Puzzle Fighter. So I have the Capcom Fighting Game Collection. What else do I have that's recent? Like Renbu Warriors. It was like another Warriors game. That game was not very good. Pac-Man Museum Plus, which was just... I don't know what happened there. It was not good, I can tell you that. But the last of the games that I've... Oh, Wreckfest. Wreckfest on Switch is surprisingly good. I thought that game would really struggle on weaker hardware, and it doesn't. It's pretty gosh darn good. There is some resolution issues, but that's going to happen on a Switch game. But the game does play pretty well. But I have one more game coming that I had pre-ordered during the streak of pre-orders that I put in through Best Buy, where I spent like more money than I probably should have. And that's like Live Alive, which comes out this coming Friday. I have purposely ignored all of the press leading up to this. It is a game that I remember hearing about for the Super Famicom back in the day, but I never played it. And so now that I'm getting a chance to play it for the first time ever, I don't want anything to spoil it. Now, I don't know that means that I'm going to play all the way through it, because I am bad when it comes to RPGs. I have only played one RPG all the way to completion, and that's Street Fighter 4. I mean, not Street Fighter 4, Final Fantasy 4. There we go. Never beat Final Fantasy 6, never beat Chrono Trigger, never beat Final Fantasy 7. Final Fantasy 4 is the only one that I played through. Now, there are certain other like action RPGs that I've played all the way through, like Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2, Champions of Norath, Champions Return to Arms. I have played through some of those repeatedly, but those aren't the same as like your traditional Squaresoft RPGs from the 90s. So I'm looking forward to Live Alive later this week. Also coming this week, by the way, if you're interested in Switch stuff, the Capcom Arcade Stadium #2 is coming. I just finished paying off my pre-order for that and preloaded it. And I'm looking forward to that. Got you. That's going to have a bunch of cool stuff on there. And I'm definitely looking forward to that, including, I think, the first 2 Street Fighter Alpha games. So, yeah, I don't think I can really go wrong there. Oh, we're beating up the car again. All right, here we go. Over here. And I know that Xenoblade Chronicles is coming very shortly. I was never going to get the collector's version of that because it doesn't come with a controller. The only reason I bought Xenoblade Chronicles 2, the limited edition, because it had the limited edition Pro controller that came with it. Oh, am I not going to make... I did barely make it. So I wasn't going to get that because I think it was only through the Nintendo store, and I'm not jumping through those hoops. But I may get the game. Again, just like the other RPGs, I've never finished Xenoblade Chronicles or its sequel or any of the expansion content, so I don't know. I'll probably wind up getting it just because. Add it to the pile of shame. Also coming this week, and I'm excited about that, and I just mentioned it, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2 is coming this week. It's not going to be physical. It's going to be digital only. Gotcha. But that's one to look out for, too. It's not perfect. It's not done by Snowblind Studios, the development team behind the first one. Although it runs on the same general engine. And they make some weird decisions in terms of the story. Like, they don't use the characters from the first game. So there are some things that aren't great about the game, but still it hits the right notes in terms of what it does. I don't know what the price is going to be on it yet. They haven't announced. They haven't announced what the price point's going to be. I'm hoping it's going to be $20, but I'll probably wind up getting that. I just cleared some SD space. What was that? Okay. So that comes out on the 20th. So that's, I think, Tuesday. So you can look forward to that if you have a Switch or a PS5 or a PS4 or an Xbox One or an Xbox Series X. I think it's coming out for Steam, too. That move is already starting to drive me nuts. Uh-oh. I'm dead. All right, we're so close though. I'm gonna keep at it. We're at the 43-minute mark. We'll keep at it a little bit longer. I'm not so angry that I don't want to play. So we'll keep at it a little bit here. What other stuff have I picked up recently? I just bought digitally. I just bought Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance for the 360. I played a little bit of that when I had my Xbox Series, my Xbox One X, but I never really played it all that much. But it was on sale for like $10, so I figured I would give it a whirl. I bought it digitally, so we'll kind of see how that goes. Ow. I needed to hit the Dragon Punch, and I didn't do it. Now I'm dead. Alright. So I got that recently, and speaking of Metal Gear, I wound up getting the Metal Gear Solid HD collection for the Xbox 360, which has Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and Peace Walker. I really got it just to play Metal Gear Solid 2. I did fire up Metal Gear Solid 3 last week, and I got to the same point I always get, which is just before the second boss battle, or just during the second boss battle, and it takes forever, and I lose interest, and I lost again. I like the story, I like the characters, I like the music. There's some things about Metal Gear Solid 3 that I do like. and there's a lot of other stuff about Metal Gear Solid 3 that I do not. It is why if people ask me to rank my favorite Metal Gear Solid games, it goes 1, 2, 4, then 3. Very few people like 2. I am not one of those people. I think 2 is pretty gosh darn cool, honestly. I think that Raiden's an interesting character. I like what Kojima did with the whole twist and how he revisits a lot of the first game with a different character perspective, and then some of the random stuff he does late in the game where he like just messes with your mind. I like having the radar, though, just like the first game, whereas the third game really doesn't have that. I do like the more modern setting. And I also just, I have a very close affinity with the game because it was such a big deal when it had come out. Metal Gear Solid 3 just didn't feel like it had the same impact. I cannot believe I missed. You know, Metal Gear Solid 2 is coming off of like a smash hit, right? You know, the first Metal Gear Solid game was just epic. And we were all curious to see how the new one was going to run on brand new hardware. And I lost again. All right. We're going to keep at it, though. Gonna keep at it. So when Metal Gear Solid 2 came out in 2001, like, it was definitely a big deal. And I think I told the story. I had just broken into video game reviewing. I got a writing gig, and I put gig in loose terms because it wasn't a paid thing. But yeah, I was writing for Exposure, and I wound up drawing the Metal Gear Solid 2 assignment because the site wasn't getting a review copy, and I was buying it at launch. I had it reserved. So they're like, yeah, you get the assignment, but you have to play the game and you have to review it within 48 hours. So I had to play through Metal Gear Solid 2 from start to finish in a day. And then I had to draft a review and turn it in. That was a challenge, to say the least. But it was still a fun memory, and I really enjoyed the game. Despite all the weird story stuff that goes on that is very divisive. And I still enjoy replaying it now, honestly. You are not beating me again. No. One more time. One more time. If I don't beat Vega here, I'm out. I'm feeling like that anger rising down here. Plus, we're getting pretty close to like the 50-minute mark here. So, yeah. So, I really got the HD collection for Metal Gear Solid 2 to play it on the Xbox 360. So, it made sense because I had got that to go ahead and pick up Revengeance, which I played it very briefly last night. And, yeah, that for an Xbox 360 game, that runs really smoothly. Looks really good. I didn't play it long enough to really identify with the story much. I just did like the early tutorial VR missions, and that was pretty much the end of it. But I'm looking forward to putting that through its paces. I don't know if I'm going to get time to talk about it. I also re-downloaded Game Room for the Xbox 360. We'll keep going, why not? The Xbox 360 and games for Windows, if you remember that phenomenon, had a platform called Game Room, which is kind of similar to what Capcom Arcade Stadium is, where you buy games either on packs or individually, and they're in like an arcade setting, so you can play them on free play. There's ranked play. And this had Konami arcade games. It had Atari arcade games. It had Atari 2600 games. It had Activision games and television games. It was a really cool platform. And back in its heyday, in 2010, I bought every pack that I could. And I'll never forget when they shut it down, because there had been a rumor that before it was shut down, that one of the next game releases was going to be, was going to be Sunset Riders. Now, Sunset Riders for the Super Nintendo is a stupid expensive game, and even was back then. So getting the arcade version of Sunset Riders is going to be a pretty big deal. I'm dead. But they shut it down the week that that game was supposed to be released. I guess the development team that put it together, Chrome Studios, they folded, and they gave up on it. But Game Room, for what it was really cool, because it was all leaderboard based, so you could play ranked games to try and get your name on the, to try and get ranked on a leaderboard. And I remember that for a couple of early Atari 2600 releases, like, I was pretty high up on that leaderboard. Hey, I won one. That means nothing. Not with this game. So I played a lot of that. I was sad when it got taken down. And when I got another Xbox 360 back in April, I tried to download it again, and I was having issues because the Game Room server got taken down like some time ago. And because Game Room has a lot of its tentacles in like online connectivity, oh, jeez. How? I moved out of the way. I'm done. But anyway. All right. That's it. Vega's got my number. I think I am done. This has been fun. I thank you guys very much for watching. Again, happy 30th anniversary to Street Fighter 2 for the Super Nintendo. It was a pretty big deal for its time. Obviously, Street Fighter 2 Turbo eclipsed it and is probably the definitive Street Fighter game for the Super Nintendo, but this particular version right here is not a bad one to play if you have a Super Nintendo, and about $20 or so. I believe that's what the cartridge is going for these days. We'll do more Pete Plays videos down the line. I hope everyone is having a great summer. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we will do it again soon. Until then, see ya.